From permanent race circuits to winding street tracks, wind-swept aerodromes, and even a Las Vegas car park. 10 venues in the United States have played host to Formula One over the past 70 years, and provided the backdrop for some classic F1 moments in the process. The popular TV show Dallas centred around the high-drama exploits of the Ewing family, and there was high drama too when Formula One made its first and to date only visit to the Texan city. Taking place in the height of summer, extreme heat and humidity meant that the Dallas Grand Prix would be a grueling affair for both drivers and cars alike, and discontent with the surface led to talks of a driver boycott. An agreement was eventually reached, but as the racing got underway, rookie Ayrton Senna became one of 18 retirees on the day, 12 of whom crashed out.
I had no clutch. Just after I stopped, the last time, I had no clutch. Just going.
Ultimately, it was Williams' Keke Rosberg who'd claimed victory in the bruising encounter, passing early leader Nigel Mansell, who then caused a sensation when he collapsed with exhaustion while trying to push his Lotus across the line for P6. It had been a day for cool heads to prevail, and none had been cooler in Dallas than Rosberg's, the Finn cleverly using a NASCAR-style cooling cap inside his helmet to outwit the Texan sun. Kimi Räikkönen knew when he arrived in Austin for the 2018 United States Grand Prix that his time with Ferrari was up, but he wanted to make sure there was one last hurrah before he left the team. The Finn issued a statement of intent from the moment the lights went out, outmuscling Lewis Hamilton and snatching the lead.
Hamilton goes to cut Kimi off, but Kimi's going to dart down the inside, is he? Going into turn one now, Räikkönen is just ahead of Hamilton. Kimi Räikkönen leads the Grand Prix.
Further down the order, Fernando Alonso was left furious after lap 1 contact with Lance Stroll.
These guys are impossible to race with. Impossible.
Sauber's Charles Leclerc was sent spinning by the Haas of Romain Grosjean, while Hamilton's title rival Sebastian Vettel also spun after a touch with the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo.
There's more contact down at turn 12 and another car spinning off as Ricciardo into Sebastian Vettel. They've rammed each other.
Out in front, a titanic battle was raging between Räikkönen and Hamilton as the Mercedes driver desperately tried to find a way past the Finn midway through the race.
Trying to go round the outside and is really being held up by Kimi Räikkönen. It was a bold move by Hamilton. It hasn't paid off.
As the laps ticked down, the Red Bull of Max Verstappen joined the party, resisting pressure from Hamilton as the trio crossed the line, separated by just 2.3 seconds. But it was Räikkönen who triumphed, taking his first victory in F1 since the 2013 Australian Grand Prix, some 5 years earlier.
Well done, my friend.
Thank you. Finally.
Mika Häkkinen's 20th and final triumph in Formula One would see him win out over his old sparring partner, Michael Schumacher, at one of motor racing's most iconic venues, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In an emotionally charged weekend, as motor racing returned to the United States for the first time since the tragic events of September the 11th, Häkkinen would start the Grand Prix from 4th, following a pre-race penalty. Early running suggested that the Grand Prix would be a slugfest between the Ferrari of Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya's Williams, as the pair went toe-to-toe around the Brickyard in the opening laps. But retirements for both Williams cars left McLaren and Ferrari in a straight battle for supremacy, with Häkkinen screaming into the lead past Rubens Barrichello after the pair's late pit stops. When Barrichello was sidelined with a late engine seizure on his Ferrari, it was left to Häkkinen to romp to a memorable victory.
Reliability and tactics, and teamwork, and good car. An excellent driver.
Graham Hill is best known for his 5 race victories at Monaco, but the dapper Englishman had a real affinity with New York's Watkins Glen circuit too, and in 1965, Hill claimed his 3rd and arguably his greatest win at the Glen. Starting from pole, the early part of the race saw Hill dicing with newly crowned world champion Jim Clark. But as the freezing rain which had plagued the whole race weekend returned, Clark would only make it as far as lap 11 with a broken piston, leaving Hill out in front in his BRM, with the Brabham pair of Dan Gurney and Jack Brabham in hot pursuit. Showing his class in the unpleasant wet-dry conditions, Hill survived to the end, even overcoming a 200-metre excursion across the grass to record his third straight victory at Watkins Glen. 1982 would witness not one, not two, but 3 Grand Prix in the United States. But the most remarkable came at F1's inaugural race in Detroit, as McLaren's John Watson claimed a shock victory from a lowly P17 on the grid. In one of F1's all-time great drives, Watson was forced to overcome a poor qualifying on a Detroit track dominated by 90-degree bends. But as Watson's hard compound tyres came on song on race day, the McLaren driver went on a rampage around Motown, scything through the field like a hot knife through butter. On one lap alone, Watson would pass teammate Niki Lauda, Ferrari's Didier Pironi, and Ligier's home hero, Eddie Cheever. Watson took the lead with 15 laps to go, before racing unchallenged to the 4th win of his career, in a remarkable reversal of fortunes for the Northern Irishman. The first and only time Formula One raced at Florida's Sebring circuit saw Jack Brabham head into the season finale as title favourite, with only Sterling Moss and Ferrari's Tony Brooks still mathematically able to fight him for the championship. A lap 1 coming together between Brooks and his own teammate Wolfgang von Trips would ultimately ruin the Englishman's chances, while a broken gearbox later sidelined Moss. That left Brabham out in front and seemingly cruising to an easy victory, only for the Australian to run out of fuel 400 metres from the flag. Brabham had no other option but to get out and push, crossing the line in P4 to claim the first of his 3 world titles, while allowing teammate Bruce McLaren to become what was, at that point, F1's youngest ever race winner. With the F1 circus gathered for the 1990 season opener on the streets of Phoenix, the inexperienced Jean Alesi got his weekend off to a fine start by qualifying his Tyrrell P4 on the grid, just in front of the all-conquering McLaren of Ayrton Senna. In just his 7th F1 start, Alesi made the perfect getaway, slipping down the inside of Gerhard Berger's McLaren to claim the lead, and was able to pull away at the front, while Berger's challenge was ended when he slid into the tyre barriers.
Gerhard Berger into the tyres, and is he out of the race? Can he get going again? He's trying to reverse out and get away, but it looks to me as though he's stuck.
Alesi's lead didn't last long, but when the Dayglow McLaren of Senna appeared in his mirrors, he didn't back down. The Brazilian slipped past the Tyrrell at the end of the main straight, but Senna didn't count on the audacious French Sicilian retaking the lead around the outside into the next corner. A lap later, and Senna used the Brabham of Gregor Wojtek to retake P1, only for the scrappy Alesi to once again try and find a way back past.
For me, it's a dream to race with Ayrton because he's again my hero, my big star. So for me, it's incredible to race with him.
Alesi would ultimately have to settle for second, but this David versus Goliath performance would earn him the respect and admiration of both Senna and F1 fans alike. In 1977, the sunny streets of Long Beach, California would witness the first and only F1 win for an American driver on home soil, as Mario Andretti triumphed in that year's United States Grand Prix West. Carnage reigned under a blazing sun, with frontrunners Carlos Reutemann, James Hunt and Ronnie Peterson all spearing off the tight street circuit at the very first turn. Avoiding the chaos, Wolf driver Jody Scheckter picked his way through the melee to claim the race lead, with Andretti and pole sitter Niki Lauda hot on his heels. Lapping on the ragged edge, Scheckter appeared to have the race all sewn up, only for a deflating right front tyre to allow Andretti past and into the lead. The Lotus driver duly crossed the line for his first win of the season in Colin Chapman's revolutionary Lotus 78, with Scheckter forced to trail home Lauda in a disappointed P3, while Andretti soaked up the adulation of his home crowd. Michael Schumacher, Kimi Räikkönen and one Pablo Montoya all headed to the penultimate round of the 2003 season with a chance of the driver's title. And with rain showers looming, it all seemed perfectly poised for a thrilling race. A great start for the Ferrari of Schumacher saw him up to fourth on the opening lap, as Montoya, who'd got away poorly, soon found himself in trouble for a collision with Rubens Barrichello on the third lap. The rain started to fall heavily, and with most drivers having just stopped for dry tyres, cars were suddenly sliding all over the track. Ralf Schumacher spun off and into the tyre barriers, as Mark Webber, who was now remarkably leading for Jaguar, also saw his race come to an end on the same lap. Worse was to come for Williams, with championship contender Montoya having to serve a drive-through penalty for that collision with Barrichello, meaning the Colombian would have to do one more lap on his dry tyres on a now very wet circuit. Out at the front, Jenson Button was leading from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as Michael Schumacher made an important pass on Räikkönen to take third. The German continued his charge through the field, mastering the conditions, to quickly pass the Sauber of Frentzen for second. But he then found himself right on the back of Jenson Button's BAR, making an academic pass down into the first corner. There was heartbreak for Button though, whose car broke down, robbing him of an elusive first podium, as Räikkönen made sure the title would go down to the final race in Japan after a daring pass on Frentzen for second. Schumacher's brilliance saw him claim his sixth race victory of the season to the delight of his team, with Frentzen claiming an unlikely podium appearance for his Sauber team in third. We've already featured one unlikely US victory for John Watson, but it was Watson's 1983 win at Long Beach from 22nd on the grid, which would go down in history as an all-time F1 record. A McLaren 1-2 hadn't looked likely after qualifying, as the naturally aspirated cars of Watson and teammate Niki Lauda had struggled against the explosive power of the turbo machines around the streets of Long Beach. But just like at Detroit a year before, in the race, Watson's McLaren and tyres came good. The Northern Irishman and Lauda set about picking their way quickly and calmly through the field.
Look at Rosberg. He's coming right up alongside. He's going to take Tombe, and off goes Tombe. Watson is really charging.
Yes, the two McLarens are comfortably the fastest cars on the track at the moment.
With Watson then ramming home his advantage by outbraking his teammate on lap 32.
John Watson is coming up to take Niki Lauda. A spurt of smoke from his tyre there, and he's gone through with a beautiful passing manoeuvre.
12 laps later, and Watson would lead the race, eventually coming home for what would be the final Grand Prix victory of his career, and a record-breaking 1-2, with Watson's Long Beach triumph remaining to this day the lowest a Formula One race winner has ever started a Grand Prix.